Even though every driver knows by now that drivers in the Minnesota area, Minneapolis in particular, are scheduled to get a pay raise, finally, as my late mom would say, I'll believe it when I see it. Being candid, I was actually in Minneapolis this weekend, and in my opinion, I'm not so sure this is going to go through. So let's talk about it. What up, folks? It is indeed your boy Tim with another ride-sharing video. I'm in Minneapolis, went to see comedian Cat Williams throw a show. Good show. I enjoyed being there. Went to the Mall of America. Actually did catch an Uber from the mall to my hotel. Talked to the driver there. A lot to discuss in this video, but in my opinion, the raise for rideshare drivers in that area is not very secure, and I'll tell you why. Hell of a lot of coverage this is getting. All over the news. I watched the evening news, the morning news. They were constantly talking about it. And you know why I don't feel secure, even though it has already passed a law with a veto-proof majority, is that all of the focus is on what will happen in Minneapolis when Uber and Lyft leaves. Understand, that's the threat they're making, suggesting they cannot pay drivers a decent wage, that they'll leave the city. So you got all of these articles and news stories about the disabled won't have anybody to take them around, the poor won't be able to get back and forth. Not one discussion over why the hell this happened in the first place. How low were you paying the damn drivers? No one seems to give a damn about the drivers. You see these interviews with people discussing how awful they'll feel or the city will be, tourism, all of that will all suffer once the drivers leave. Not one counter question featuring, does the drivers really have an argument? They're claiming they're not getting paid enough to get by. What is their pay? How low is their pay? Didn't come up. No one is being asked that. No one is basically giving a damn what the drivers are being paid. And unfortunately, not only are some city council members starting to rethink their tune, the Republicans in the state, a blue state, liberal governor, and a liberal mayor of Minneapolis, yet the Republicans are getting involved and also saying that the relief, the pay increase given to drivers need to be second guessed, need to rethink it. Biggest problem with all of this shit, if they don't give the drivers a pay increase, they're going to say, go back to the drawing board, figure out something more fairly, and we'll decide again next year. That's what has happened already. They don't do this shit overnight. So Uber and Lyft get a whole year to continue paying drivers like shit every time they win. This happened last year, where drivers were about to get some relief. They convinced the mayor to veto it, also convinced the governor to veto it. Not one move from Uber or Lyft to say, listen, you didn't win this amount, but we'll give you at least this. Nothing. They're trying to keep drivers right where they're at. And you're going to really find out real quick in this article how low that shit is. The price of a ride. Fares are about to increase for Minneapolis drivers, but by how much? Now, this is where we want to know, how much are the fares going to increase? Remember, $1.40 a mile is the proposed change. 51 cents a minute wait time, 80% of the fees, minimum $5 trip. Anytime you show up, minimum $5. Here is what an actual journalist in the area came up with. A Sahan Journal analysis found that a new Minneapolis ordinance could almost double what drivers make, but a state bill and a proposal by Uber and Lyft would result in a much different picture by May 1st. Almost double. We've talked about this before. Drivers are going to get $1.40 a mile. Now, according to their figures, by giving them $1.40 a mile, minimum $5 per trip, 51 cents a minute wait time, this would bring drivers up around minimum wage. So if the analysis suggests that they were only making a little bit more than half of this before, nobody's asking, why, when we do the analysis of the numbers, why was drivers making so damn low to begin with? That's where the problem is. This is very similar to folks arguing about raising the minimum wage up from $7 to $15 overnight, and no one asking, why the hell has it been at $7 for so damn long? We've talked about this before. Most of the southern states in this country still have a minimum wage of under $8 an hour. No one asked that question. I don't think a burger flipper should make $15. But why the hell has minimum wage stayed the same for 20 years? This is very similar to that. Why aren't you giving them some increase? To the point where, yeah, by the time you're forced to give them an increase, it's damn near double what you're paying them now. Very, very similar to the minimum wage argument, where states are going from $7 to $8 an hour all the way up to 15 because the wages haven't moved for damn near 20 years. This is very similar to that. But here are the actual numbers. On a recent ride with a Sahan reporter from Minneapolis, uptown neighborhood, to the Target store on East Lake Street and Highway 55. Here you go, Mahdi, these are a lot of these Somalians in the area. Mahdi kept $8.62 of the $12.98 fare. So the fare was $12.98. He kept $8.62. Big fucking gap. That's $4.30 of a $12.98 fare that went somewhere else. So folks believe that Uber and Lyft only take a small percentage. $12.98, $4.30 went elsewhere in regards to Uber and Lyft's hands. That is 32% of the fare. That right there is 32% of the fare. So when they say we only take 5, 10, 15%, they're fucking lying. This is what reality is. But here is their pushback, where they try to make it make sense. And in my opinion, they do not, but we'll discuss it. Uber spokesperson Josh Gold pushed back after this story was published. Damn right he did. Sharing receipts that showed a $2.01 service fee for the ride with Mahdi, or 15% of the total cost. However, the app also took out $2.35 for commercial auto insurance. The two fees together made up a third of what the passenger was charged. This is where we talk about transparency. Two statements. First of all, $2.01 service fee. If the trip was $12.98 and Uber took $2.01 out of the trip, you know, that's leaving the driver with $10.97 or something like that, if my math is correct. I don't think there would be an argument. But according to this analysis from this journalist, they also took out $2.35 for commercial insurance. That's out of a $12.98 fare. They're taking $2.35. That's way too fucking much. That is hard to explain. And once again, very few people push back when Uber and Lyft say that, well, we got to take out a bunch of money in commercial insurance. Who the hell are you getting your drivers insured by? What connection do they have to the company? Because everyone can assume that if every driver that takes a trip, you're paying some commercial insurance company that much of it, you're getting a huge kickback if you don't own the damn company outright. There is no explanation for that. But here's how much insurance they're saying the requirements are. Gold said in a statement that rideshare companies are required to maintain $1.5 million in liability insurance under Minnesota law. Now, I will say this, if that is true, as opposed to pushing back with Minnesota politicians on giving drivers a raise or not, why not push back and demand that they reduce the amount of insurance required? $1.5 million? Why don't they push back against that? My guess is they're not pushing back against that because they're making money off the insurance companies. If they're giving $2.35 of that fare to an insurance company, they have a huge stake in that insurance company. And by the way, it would only make sense if you got millions of drivers driving for you and they are all required in every state to have some form of insurance. Why not open up an insurance company? I mean, after all, you're sending so many drivers to it, you damn sure might as well do it. Or if you have a company like Uber or Lyft where you got millions of drivers, you can reach somebody pretty damn high up at Allstate or State Farm or some other major insurance company and tell them, I'm giving you millions of clients every year. What's my kickback? What's my discount? Most likely, once again, as we said last time about Uber being required by this new ordinance in Minnesota to give drivers 80% of the fees, I bet you they're getting some kind of discount or kickback from whoever's providing commercial insurance, and they're keeping it. It's as simple as that. They're keeping it. They're charging drivers full retail, and they're not paying it. They're keeping it. There is absolutely a certainty that if they're taking $2.35 out of every trip in the $12 range, that they are profiting off of some of that money. That is not all going to some damn insurance company. They're getting none out of it. Absolutely, they're getting something out of that. And this is where the lack of transparency comes in. You're not going to know much about the insurance company. You can't ask about the rates or anything. Once again, when Uber and Lyft are allowed to keep things in the dark, guess who gets ripped off? Guess who profit out of it? I've said it from day one when we started making these videos. The more transparency you get out of Uber and Lyft, the better off it will be for both drivers and passengers. Simply put, they're allowed to do too much shit unchallenged, unquestioned. $2 and I don't know what the hell the number was, $2.35 or whatever the hell it was out of a $12 fare? Really? All that's for insurance. That is insane. But concluding, the article states Minnesota has the highest insurance requirements in the country, and about 10% of each ride in the fourth quarter went to cover the cost of insurance, Gold said in a statement. Makes no sense for a couple reasons. First of all, how many drivers have you heard about getting involved in accidents and Uber or Lyft refusing to cover them? If you get shot by your passenger, they don't do shit for you. If you get carjacked while driving, they don't cover it. They require you have your own damn insurance. And if something happens while you're driving, they try to make them pay first. Why are they charging so much for insurance that most drivers will never use? A quick little bit of transparency would blow that shit wide open. I guarantee you, and I mean feel confident to say I guarantee you that Allstate, State Farm, Progressive, you name it, you could find another insurance company if they opened up their books and told the truth that would suggest we can insure drivers for cheaper than what they're charging. Guaranteed. Because what they're charging has hidden profit in it for the companies. Not one person throughout all the interviews I've seen while I was in Minnesota covering this whole we're going to leave because they're asking for too much, not one person challenged that shit. 10% out of every ride is going to insurance, yet the drivers also have to have their own personal insurance. You don't cover a lot of shit. And if something happens, they get nothing for it. Yet they have $1.5 million of insurance. At most, Uber and Lyft's insurance, if you're lucky, will cover the damage to your car. Outside of that, that's probably it. Getting medical coverage, not likely. As I stated, if you're carjacked by a passenger, I've yet to hear of a single case, and I've probably covered over 100 carjackings on this channel. I've yet to hear of a single case where a driver was carjacked while engaging in rideshare for Uber or Lyft, and their insurance gave him back his car. Not once. They'll suspend you from the app until you show them you got another vehicle to take trips in. The insurance cost, folks, is where the theft is coming from. Nevertheless, let me hear what you guys have in the comments. Have they told you any damn thing about how much they charge for insurance? Because I'm astounded how no one is questioning why the insurance portion of the fare, that what they're alleging going to the fare, is so damn much when their insurance covers so damn little and their deductibles are $2,500 a pop. Makes no sense at all. Let your boy know in the comments. As always, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.